Last year, a group of mothers in Turkey's southeastern city of Diyarbakir began a protest. They directly confronted a political party that has links to terrorism. Today, they're still protesting, demanding their children, who were reportedly kidnapped and forced to join the PKK terror group, be returned. For many parents, it's a grueling ordeal. For those who managed to escape and return home, it's been an eye-opening moment. Haydar Abbasi explains.
The midsummer heat doesn't stop them from coming out to protest. From morning until evening, these parents demand the return of their children. They haven't seen them for years.
Çocuklarımızı gönderin. Benim oğlum gelse bile ben bu eylemi sonlandırmayacağım. Ben bu annelere destek vereceğim, bu babalara destek vereceğim. Çünkü hepimiz burada evlatlarımızı istiyoruz.
For a year now, the families of missing children have been holding a daily protest outside the local offices of the People's Democratic Party, or HDP. They accuse the party of brainwashing their children and recruiting them to the PKK. The HDP is a mainly pro-Kurdish party linked to the PKK terror group. The families say their children were invited to its office by the party's youth branch, but then vanished. They would later discover their children had joined the PKK in Iraq or an affiliate group in Syria. Over the past 40 years, the PKK has been targeting Turkey. It's recognized as a terrorist organization by Turkey, the European Union, and the United States. Ankara says it's behind the killing of more than 40,000 people, including women and children. The HDP says it wants to further the rights of minorities in Turkey, including Kurds. But many of the parents protesting here are Kurdish and say the HDP isn't helping Kurds.
Evlatlarımızı HDP, PKK onlardan koparıp almadan bu dava bitmeyecek. PKK dağda, HDP uzantısı şehirde yapacağını, Kürtler üstünde oyun oynuyor. Yeter artık biz Kürtlerin ismini ağızlarına almasınlar. Pis ellerini çeksinler bizim ve çocuklarımızın üstünden.
We spoke to someone who was part of the PKK as a teenager and asked why he joined the terror group. His identity has been hidden for security reasons. He also told us about the HDP and its links to the PKK. Since the protests began, 15 children have left the PKK and returned to their families in Turkey. This gives hope to the other parents, who say they'll continue their protest until all the missing children come home. Haydar Abbasi, Straight Talk, Diyarbakir.
And joining me now from Amsterdam is Selman Aksunger. He is a lecturer at the Istanbul Center of International Law. And on set, Resul Serdar, who is a senior fellow at the TRT World Research Center. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program and Resul on you. So PKK and its Syrian offshoot, the YPG, continue to forcibly recruit children despite the backlash. And now we mark the first anniversary of sit-in protests by mothers who want their children abducted by the PKK be returned to them. What has changed so far, in your opinion?
Look, in that sense, I will say that what has changed mostly is psychological, and that is quite important because if one look at the PKK's history and the history of its actions, they will see that they suppress almost everything, not only the opposition groups or any other movements or organizations that could be potentially alternative to PKK, but also suppress the people who live in the predominantly Kurdish majority cities as well. So in that sense, maybe for the first time in the history of this terrorist organization, some people, civilians, without any initiations from the state or any other supporters, organizations, and so on. They just have done it because it was time for them to really to say enough is enough. Over the last 4 decades, PKK has recruited their children, and these children have been, these young people have been killed brutally, have been punished brutally by the organization itself. And for the mothers, particularly in that region, it was like the time of saying enough is enough.
So we know that there are countless bitter stories of Kurdish children in Turkey, and abduction is a widely used method for these terror organizations. I want to go to Selman. The UN Secretary General Guterres just a couple of months ago said in a report to the Security Council that the PKK's offshoot, YPG, has recruited hundreds of minors and used schools for military purposes. What is the motivation behind the terrorist group's recruitment of children? Is that an indication that they're losing their manpower?
Well, involvement of the children and conflict is a complex phenomenon, and some children enter the conflicts by voluntarily, driven by the promise or recruited through the violence and threats. And there are many reasons why they are used in conflicts. Usually, the shortage of the troop is used as an argument by commanders. And therefore, they use child soldiers instead of to fill their rank in the armies. But there are also other factors why children are attractive fighters, since they are obedient and they are easily to be manipulated and open to do dangerous assignments. And in case there are a collateral damage or a child soldier has been killed or wounded, then it's going to be easy for the terrorist organizations and other armed groups to manipulate these kind of situations. And some of the children also give strong incentives for the members of the PKK to maintain their control over the Kurdish society, because they're trying to keep their ties with their children, and the families are trying to maintain their link with their children. So they are trying to somehow maintain their relation with this organization.
So they're stuck in between.
Yeah, and sadly, 40% of the child soldiers are girls. And sadly, the combatants or the leaders sometimes use these girls as sex slaves.
Okay. So, Resul, according to latest figures, the PKK terror organization seems militarily to be on the brink of a defeat. Can you tell us about the changing tactics and how did we get this point?
Look, first, by starting by the 2016, Turkey's security architecture has been changed dramatically. The new architecture has been formed, and apparently it is really working for Turkey, internally and externally as well. That is the first parameter for that. And second, in terms of psychological environment, lots of things has changed. Look at the mothers, they're just in the street and uttering their voices very much loudly. So psychologically also, people, I would say that they broke down that all of the thick walls of the fears. And publicly, what they have done in the past and what they are doing now, it's being heard much better than before due to all of these communication tools and so on. That is the other parameter. Third, somehow we need to know that the technology is also letting the Turkish state to operate very much in an upper hand than the PKK. PKK has been almost stuck in the mountains now.
Yes.
And in the northern of the Syria, we have seen that there has been lots of major military incursion into Syria and the places that were under the control of the PKK-linked YPG as well. So militarily also, they have been a little bit broken down in that sense.
All right, let's take a look into a legal perspective. Selman, last year, Virginia Gamba, the UN Secretary General's Special Representative on Children in Armed Conflicts, met in Geneva with Mazlum Kobani, known as a PKK-YPG terror leader, and signed a deal to end the recruitment of child soldiers. That means that the terror organization admitted to committing a war crime there. So could you give us an international legal framework on that deal?
All right. I think it has been a legally wrong method to improve or seek the compliance of PKK to respect the rules of law and also to the rights of children. such action plans aren't treaties because they are not created between subjects of international law, such as states or international organizations, and they concluded between a representative of an international organization, which is UN Special Rapporteur, and a leader of a terrorist group. So certainly, this is not constituted as an international treaty under the Vienna Convention of Law of Treaty regime. And this view is also consistent with the decisions of the courts and tribunal. And let me give you a brief information about the Geneva Conventions, what the convention says about such deals, because such deals shall not affect the legal status of the parties.
Yes.
And this can be understood that the PKK has no international status there, neither in Syria nor in Iraq or Turkey. Whatever it may be and whatever title it may give themselves or they call themselves. So this view is, I think, consistent with international law, which has been also confirmed by Special Tribunal for Sierra Leone. Mm-hmm. And there are even stronger reasons why I believe that this is a legally wrong approach, which is including these states as the primary subjects of international law from that deal. Turkey, Iraq, Syria was not part of that deal,
yes,
that action plan.
So, Resul, Turkey is not fighting the PKK within its border or in the Middle East, but also in Europe, where the terror organization procures human resources, logistics, and financial support. What could Turkey could do to change the Western countries' governments and media's approach to the PKK fighters, because they are usually portrayed as oppressed freedom fighters?
That's true. And unfortunately, when it comes to the media, particularly recently, I will say that the Western media outlets or the Western media industry is not going through the fact-checking processes. And I think editorially, there is a real chronic problems, sloppy journalism. So it has to be very well taken care of that. That's why the figures regarding to the surveys and related to the Western media's credibility, you will see that just in 2016, a reliable survey saying that the credibility of the media has been dropped to 64, which means, to 36. Mm-hmm. So which means 64 people out of 100 do not believe what the Western media industry is saying. So believe that they are manipulating or lying. So that is, I will say, very much hurtful image for the media itself.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we are out of time. Selman, thank you very much for joining us from Amsterdam. And Resul, thank you very much for being on sets with us. Appreciate it a lot.
Thank you for having us.